Hello everybody, welcome to our channel, Rebecca Stew in the Crew. I'm Rebecca. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make two projects, this farmhouse sign and this chicken wire welcome sign. So the supplies you will need to create project number one will be some of these poster stickers from the Dollar Tree. You'll also need one of their welcome signs with the windmill on it, some of their crafter square magnetic buttons, or you can use the Velcro fastener dots. Either one will work. You're also going to need some coordinating paint of your choice. I'm going to use white and black for mine. You'll also need a painter's marker or a Sharpie, and then you can use one of these Easter signs or a piece of wood. I have a piece of scrap wood, so that's what I'm going to use. You'll need some coordinating ribbon of your choice, also some greenery of your choice, and then you're also going to need a pair of scissors. You will need a paintbrush, one or two for the Mod Podge and the paint. You can use the Mod Podge in matte or glossy. You'll need some sandpaper, and I'm going to use this paper clip as my hangers for the back. And then you'll need one of these wood chickens from Walmart. I got it over in the crafter section for less than $2. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Now let's get crafty. So if you're using your Easter sign, you're going to want to pop those little feet off on the bottom there. If you're not using that, if you're using a piece of wood, then of course you don't have to do that part. And all we're going to do is paint the whole thing white. So I painted the whole top and then the edges, but I did not paint the back. And so paint will work just fine on those signs from Dollar Tree. Then I painted the little chicken black, and I'm going to set all that aside to dry. While that's drying, I'm going to cut out the word farmhouse out of my poster stickers and set those aside for a few minutes once I have the whole word spelled out. So then once my sign was dry, I took some of the sandpaper and just rubbed some of the paint off to give it a weathered look. And then I'm going to take some hot glue and glue this chicken onto the front end of the sign here. You can also use the E6000 or Fix-All adhesive, but the hot glue worked just fine. So then just using a ruler, I'm going to space out my letters using a popsicle stick. So all I did was make sure that the popsicle stick was touching the sides of each letter, and then I just used a ruler at the bottom to make sure that it was sitting even all the way across. So I just went ahead and put down the letters that spell farmhouse, and I used that windmill in the center just as a spacer, so I knew how close or how far to put those letters. You just want to space those out before you put those on. So once that was done, I pulled this little dot off the front of the windmill here. It cut really easy with a pair of scissors. Now the windmill itself was a little bit more difficult to get off of the stand. So what I did is I took a pair of like pliers and smashed down the little piece of metal a little bit, and then I used a screwdriver to make the hole a little bit bigger so I could pry that off. So once I had that off, I just took that little piece that I cut off earlier and I hot glued that back onto the front in the center and waited for that to dry just for a few seconds before I flipped it over. Then I'm just going to go ahead and flip that over and take one of those crafter square magnetic buttons and hot glue that onto the back of this. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to be able to take this off so that I can change it for each season, and you'll see why here in just a second. So using some hot glue while the buttons are together, the magnetic buttons, I'm just going to go ahead and position the little windmill here in the center and glue that down. Now if you don't want to keep the windmill up as your letter O for the whole entire season, you can change this out. So you can use a heart. Dollar Tree sells all these wood pieces all year. They sold a snowflake this year. They've also had some little flowers you can use as an O, an Easter bunny. They have fall leaves, and then they also had some like Christmas bulbs. You can change that out just by using magnet buttons on the back of those as well, and change that throughout the year. So then I just took the little period dot stickers and put those in the corner to look like screws, and then some Mod Podge to go over my letters to make sure that those stay down over time. I also took my painter's marker and trimmed along the outside edges of the sign just to frame that up a little bit, and then I took a little bow that I had made with some ribbon and put that on the neck of the chicken here, and then I took a little bit of greenery and I just smash it in half to make it curl a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and take some hot glue and just glue that down right between the F and the chicken here on this side. Then I did take another piece and I did the same thing for the other side of the sign and just glued that at the end of the letter E, between the end of the E and the little dots there on the end. So it looked a little bit plain, so I made 2 more small bows with my coordinating ribbon and I just glued those at the bottom of each piece of the greenery here. Then taking my little paper clip here, I just squeezed the top and pulled those 2 little tabs off. So if you don't have one of these, that's okay. You can also use like the little tab to a pop can to make little hangers on the back. So I did some hot glue and then I just glued these down on the back of the sign, 1 on each side. So 1 on each side, because it was so big, made it a little bit more secure and easier to hang. And that's the whole thing from start to finish for project 1. I love how it turned out. It is super easy to make and I love that it's interchangeable and I can change it throughout the year. So for project number 2, we're going to make this welcome sign using the pieces from that windmill that came apart. So the supplies you'll need, of course, is the piece from this windmill that we pulled apart, and here it is right here. So that's what we're going to use. We're also going to use some apple barrel paint. You could also use spray paint if you want, a little bit of chicken wire, some flowers of your choice, and then you're also going to need some black ribbon or yarn. Then I used a hot glue gun. I needed a pair of scissors as well and a paintbrush. So the first thing I did was I just put a coat of black paint on this welcome sign. It did take 2 coats just because it's like metal, so it's kind of slippery, and so it didn't want to stick super well. So I did do 2 coats and then it was just fine. After that, I did the welcome sign and the whole entire triangle black, even though I am going to wrap that with some yarn. So then I took a small piece of chicken wire and laid that out, and then I used my marker to mark off where I wanted to cut my chicken wire so that I can work with a smaller piece here. So once I did that, I just used a regular pair of scissors to cut that down, and then to help hold it in place while I'm wrapping the rough edges with the ribbon, I just used a little bit of hot glue to hold that down in place. It's not going to hold long term, but it does hold it down long enough that you can wrap your wire around it to help hold that all into place. So I just take the end of my yarn here and I tie it around the one piece here in the corner into a knot, and it stays fairly well, but I did put a little dot of hot glue there just to make sure that it stays, and then I cut off the excess yarn there. Now holding the whole piece together in my hand so it doesn't pull apart, I just acted like I was sewing in and out through each little hole of the chicken wire and around the edge, being careful to make sure I covered up those sharp edges of the chicken wire so that it wasn't sharp. You can also bend the little pieces that you cut down a little bit to help wrap that around the sides and help it stay. So this is a little bit time consuming, but not too bad. It took me probably 5 minutes to wrap the whole thing all the way around to the other side of the triangle. Once I had the other side down, I tied it just like I did the other side, nice and tight with a knot, and then I did cut those off and burn those a little bit with a lighter. So I took an extra piece of string and I put some hot glue along this rough edge down here at the bottom so that I could cover those rough edges as well. So I just took a little tiny piece of that yarn that I had and covered that up so that it wouldn't have any sharp edges, because knowing myself, I'd grab it in the wrong spot and cut my fingers open, so I figured it was better to be safe than sorry. So once that's all done, we flip that over and you can see what the front of that looks like. And now the easy part is just adding some flowers of your choice. So I use some of these Dollar Tree flowers. I just cut the white pieces down and hot glued those into place, and I just kind of played around with them a little bit, deciding where I wanted them before I would hot glue them down. And then I took a little bit of greenery and cut some small pieces off and just placed that around the one corner here. And then I did put a little bit down in the corner of the welcome sign as well. Once that was done, I just took some small little pink flower buds and I glued those on in a few spots. And then I made a hanger with the yarn that we had. So you've got that hole in the top where you've took that windmill off, so that's the perfect place to put your hanger on. Just tie that in a knot and add a little bit of hot glue to make sure that that stays. And then I wanted it to go with the farmhouse sign that I made, so I used the same coordinating ribbon and made a small bow and then just glued that to the top. And that's the whole thing start to finish. I love that I was able to use the rest of that welcome sign so that it didn't go to waste, and it made a really cute sign for my door. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up and a share. I'd really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I hope you guys have a great day, and here are some other videos from our channel that you might also enjoy.